Alright. Now, amongst the computers that we have over on the internet, some of which are special computers. These are special computers. These special computers can give us what we call services. Right? And hence, these computers are called servers. So what are servers? You can just imagine servers as computers with either large processing power or large capacity or combination, right? In which case it can host things. For example, it can host a file or a service or a program, right? And other people on the network can access that server. Let's say, for example, this is a server, right? S1. Let's say that is a server, right? So other computers on the network can access the server somehow and get those services. I think you might have noticed some of us might have used things such as Skype, right? Which is a type of service actually called voice over internet protocol. Voice over internet, right? Or some of us might have used WhatsApp. Which is a form of a messenger software. Messenger service, right? So these respective services will have its own protocol. It's like, for example, over on the internet, if you still remember, we have ways to actually send and receive data, right? So this is under TCP IP. One part here is for packetting, meaning you put data into packets. And then another part here is for addressing, right? So these two protocols are a pair which is essential for data transfer throughout the internet. So you can imagine it as though it is a kind of postage system, meaning to say that we have the postman, they have their routes on how to send and receive mails, and then they have the addresses and postcodes. So you have certain rules that you have to follow. For example, you have to write your address, you have to put a stamp, you have to write the postcode, right? You have to put certain kinds of envelopes and etc., right? And then at the same time, depending on the kind of mail you want to send, for example, it's a parcel. For example, you want it to arrive really quickly, post laju, right? Or if you want to arrive, you want it to arrive in a foreign country, you use airmail. So you use different envelopes, meaning it's packaged differently, right? Meaning the recipient will receive it differently, depending on the kind of mail you want to send, right? So similarly here, right? Using a different service, you might use a different protocol, right? Messenger also have its own protocol. Now, the most popular service on the internet, on the other hand, is what we call the World Wide Web. It is arguably the most important service. I mean, imagine if you can use the internet, but you cannot use the World Wide Web. Now, that is a little bit of a tricky question. Why? Because a lot of people equate the internet and the World Wide Web as the same thing. This is incorrect. The internet is the worldwide infrastructure. We are talking about computers, we are talking about cables, we are talking about servers, we are talking about different kinds of physical infrastructure as well as protocols that enables us to send and receive data. The World Wide Web, on the other hand, is the content. How content is represented or delivered to us. Right? So World Wide Web actually uses its own protocol called Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Right? How do we know that we are using a different service on the internet. That's fairly easy. When if you're using a different service, right, what happens is that your computer will communicate with the server. Your computer will communicate with the server. Servers use this kind of special operating system. It's called network operating system, right? So your computer will have to have its own what we call client-side software. Client-side software, right? Client-side software on your computer will actually communicate with the server. So what happens here is that when or if you use a different software to use the internet, that means you're using a different service on the internet. For example, you might be using Skype. Now, if you use Skype, you won't be able to serve Facebook, for example. If you use WhatsApp, similar thing. If you use WhatsApp, you cannot use Skype and call someone, right? And when you use World Wide Web, you cannot use WhatsApp, for example, right? Because they use different protocols, and hence they use different client-side software. You open a different client-side software to be able to access a different kind of server, to access a different kind of service. And that is the services that we have over on the internet, one of which is the World Wide Web, which we'll discuss much more further later.